If a man's name dies in his homeland, where does his life truly live? On a passport, on a grave, or in the mouths of those who speak his kindness? In the town of Kinyonga, where the tar road narrowed into a ribbon and the baobabs spread like an old woman's skirt over the bus park, lived a driver named Musa Kambaraj. He was not a bad man, people would say, only ambitious in that itchy way a pocket gets when it feels coins and wants more. He slept lightly, ate quickly, and counted money slowly, leaf by leaf, as if each note carried a secret map. The blue minibus he drove, its name painted on the windscreen in a swoop of pride. Sky Blessing was his altar and his mirror. In its windows he admired himself, the polished hair, the ironed shirt, the confidence that came from arriving first and leaving last. Musa learned early that speed could turn hours into minutes, and minutes into money. He could make 2 trips to the border before other drivers returned even once. The highway enforcement officers liked him well enough. A folded handshake here, a "how are the children?" there, and rules softened like yams in a pot. The women traders, travelling with baskets of tomatoes and the laughter of cousins, valued his reliability. The students valued his music. The petty thieves valued the distraction of all that music and laughter. But the one person who did not value Musa's ways was the old man who sat under the baobab, plucking a kora made from a calabash patched with wire. Everyone called him Babanguvu. Nobody knew whether that was his real name or the name time had given him. He was one of those elders who wore wisdom casually, like a shirt with too many buttons undone. The market children brought him water, the drivers threw him the odd coin, the mothers greeted him with both hands. He taught proverbs that sounded like riddles and riddles that sounded like maps. "Driver," he called one afternoon as Musa revved Sky Blessing, the engine coughing black prayers. When a man outruns his shadow, does he truly arrive sooner, or does he merely lose himself on the way? Musa grinned. "Baba, my passengers are not shadows. They have to reach the border before the customs officers go to lunch." Baba Nguvu smiled, but his eyes did not. "Stomachs are not clocks, my son, and the road remembers the names of those who hurry past her warnings." That same day, the sky gathered a hot, bruised purple, pre-monsoon temper. The first heavy sheets of rain struck the tin roofs of Kinyonga like fists. Hollows in the road fattened into sudden lakes. Musa looked at the clouds, and then at the queue of passengers under the veranda, trembling in their plastic sandals, clutching sacks. He thought of how many trips he could squeeze if he refused to heed the weather's scolding. Greed. Not a man, not a mask, but a presence, leaned in the doorway of his thoughts and whispered, "You have done this before. You are the best on this road. The old man plays strings, you play gears. Take one more load." A girl of 11 or 12 stood near the front. She had the kind of open face that made people honest. In her hand, a net of oranges swung like twin suns. "Sir," she said, "my mother asked that I travel on the slower coach today. The bridge past Michelle floods when the rain is angry. The slow coach is full," Musa countered, glancing at its driver, counting heads. "But Sky Blessing Chum is blessed. I'll even give you the front seat." Babanguvu's kora sang 2 soft notes. "Blessings are not umbrellas," he murmured. Musa felt the twitch of impatience. The rain sluiced harder. If he waited, he would lose his place. The officers would return from lunch and demand fresh handshakes. He waved his conductor to pack them in. Traders, students, a tall man in a suit, the orange-selling child despite her hesitation. He strapped in, winked at his reflection, and murmured, "Sky Blessing, do not embarrass me." They sped out of Kinyonga, tyres spitting water. The world's colours bleached into rain, and the road became a glass snake under their wheels. At Mishal, the bridge was not merely wet, it was angry, just as the girl had warned. Churning brown water bulged at its belly, slapping the concrete rails. A sign read, "Slow." But its letters were fogged with spray. Musa hesitated for one throb of the engine. Then he remembered the faces of the customs officers and the slow coach edging into sight behind him. His mouth hardened. He downshifted, gripped the wheel, and took the bridge at a speed that made the passengers' breaths become one sharp inhale. Halfway across, the bus shuddered. The rear wheels fish-tailed, slowing him toward the rail. Musa fought, the way a fisherman fights a stubborn Nile perch. The bus corrected, then overcorrected. A cheer rose in startled relief. Then a scream rose, because relief had been too early, and the bridge had decided to teach a lesson. Sky blessing. Clipped the rail, tilted like a cup spilling, and slid. For a heartbeat, the bus seemed to hang between fixable and fate. Then it fell. In the chaotic music of impact and water, the world went black. When Musa awoke, it wasn't darkness that greeted him, but an enormous white. He thought at first it was heaven's cloth, bleached by angels, but then he smelled cassava and wood smoke. He blinked. Above him, the sky was not white at all. It was a salt flat glare, softened by fine mist. A face leaned over him, wrinkled the way a map wrinkles after rainy seasons. It belonged to a woman with a headscarf patterned in blue stars. Her eyes were clear black lakes. "You are stubborn," she said. "Even the river spat you out instead of swallowing you." He tried to sit, cried out as pain lanced his shoulder. He remembered the screams, the crunching metal, the churn, the oranges, bright and useless, spinning like moons in the flood. "The passengers," he rasped. "Where?" "Some died," the woman said plainly, like announcing weather. "Some lived. You have been sleeping for 2 days. You are in Lusalama." "Lusalama?" Musa repeated. The name unspooled painfully. Lusalama was across the border, a small river town known for its fishermen, and a ferry that rarely ran on time. "But my country." The woman poured water. "The river carries secrets like palm wine carries laughter. Sometimes it crosses borders without asking. So do secrets, and so do men." Drink, a boy, peered in at the doorway, tall for his age, with scarred knees and the wiry confidence of a cat that had learned to steal fish. "Mama," he said, "if he is awake, maybe he can help with the traps." "Shh, Lembo," the woman chided. To Musa she said, "I am Mama Saya." "My boy thinks every stranger is a helper waiting to happen." Musa swallowed the water, and with it a knot of grief that scratched like thorns. Faces spun in his head, the girl with oranges, the man in the suit, a passenger in a yellow head tie whose name he hadn't caught. He had always believed he was the best at the wheel, and now, who was he? "Your papers were ruined," Mama Saya said, nodding toward a folded bundle on a stool. A soggy tangle of permits, receipts, the proud laminated card with Musa Kambaraj in fading ink. "The policeman who came yesterday looked at you and shook his head. He said, 'We marked one driver as dead on the report from your side. His bus went over. If he floats ashore, it is not him.'" "What do you mean, not him?" Musa asked. His voice cracked with fear that sounded like anger. The boy Lembo answered with that unmannered accuracy children use. "He means your country thinks you died. In your country you are finished." Musa tried to stand. His legs argued, the floor won. "Finished," he whispered. It was a word like a door slamming. If he was dead to his country, what was he to himself? "Alive to this one," Mama Saya said calmly. "Alive to me, because you are breathing in my house. Alive to Lembo, because he wants you to fetch fish. Alive to the ones who will taste your kindness, if you have some." Greed, who had ridden with Musa through all his travels, stirred inside him, muttering about lost income, lost rotes, lost reputation. Pride added its hard voice. "They cannot write you off like this." The two of them wrestled, but another voice floated under their quarrel. It sounded like the mellow laugh of Babanguvu's Kora saying, "When a man outruns his shadow, does he truly arrive sooner?" "Do not think too loudly," Mama Saya advised. "It confuses the ancestors." For weeks Musa lay in that house of blue star cloth and wood smoke, healing like a slow dawn. He learned that 3 passengers had drowned, including the tall man in the suit, and that the girl with oranges had been pulled out by villagers downstream, coughing river but breathing. She had gone home the next day to her mother, who had thanked God by cooking a pot of groundnut stew for the rescuers. He learned that sky blessing lay in the muscles of the river now, stripped by the current. He also learned that in Lusalama, one's value did not hang only on a job title, but on whether your hands were ready when a neighbour said, "Please." Mama Saya was a widow who smoked fish for the market in wide woven trays. Lembo cut reeds, set fish traps, and occasionally used his fast feet for errands that paid with smiling praise. They had little, but the little flowed, in cups of tea, in shared salt, in stools offered at doorways. "The river took your name paper," Mama Saya said on a morning when fog curled inside the hut like a cat. "It is not the worst theft. Names can be mended if deeds stitch them. How does a man who has killed without meaning to mend anything?" Musa asked. "Listen first," she said, "then carry." She put a tray of smoked tilapia in his hands. "Walk to the clinic." "The new nurse has more people than she has strength," Musa walked. He felt the ache in his shoulder with each step, and inside it, the ache of something heavier. At the clinic, a queue of mothers swayed babies on hips. An old man sat, erect as if defying age to bend him. The nurse, bleary-eyed, smiled at the fish, as if it were sleep. "Thank you," she said, brushing Musa's fingers by accident, and her touch, so practical, felt like a kind of absolution. Next day Mama Saya said, "Carry this sack of cassava to the widow by the mango tree. The day after that, hold the oar." The ferry is stuck again. The river laughs at timetables. Each act was small, but small acts braided into hours that braided into days. People began to nod to Musa, not as a stranger, but as someone whose shadow fit the road. Yet the river had not finished with him. One late afternoon, when the sun was a tired coin on the roofs, a man in a low hat came to the fish stall and watched Musa's hands wrap fish in leaves. "You are quick," the man said. Musa made a non-committal sound. He had learned recently that words can obey greed even when their speaker thinks he is free. "You are quick," the man repeated. "My boss needs quick men. The border needs quick men. There are packages that must cross when customs sleeps." His mouth tilted. The river is a good conspirator, but trucks are more loyal. Greed pressed its forehead to Musa's. "This is your resurrection," it hissed. "Take it, rise from the dead, and ride your own road again." Pride, too, swelled. "You are not a carrier of fish. You are a man of engines." "What is the payment?" Musa asked, before the part of him that had been mending could stop his tongue. "Money that buys a new life," said the man. That night, Musa did not sleep because his thoughts walked up and down like a father pacing during a birth. Babanguvu's proverb returned, this time not as a riddle, but as a warning. The road remembers the names of those who hurry past her warnings. Had he not learned the river's other cruel proverb? What you rush across may pull you under, but he also felt the ache to be recognized. To hold again the cool certainty of a steering wheel, to be someone whose name, even if written wrongly in a ledger, was spoken right by the road. He went to the water's edge where night sat with its knees up. Lembo found him there, because boys find things, even the heavy things that don't want to be found. "You will leave," Lembo said, not accusing, simply stating the way a rooster states dawn. "I don't know," Musa said. "My country has declared me dead." "And here?" Lembo asked. "Here you are alive. If you go to carry secret packages, will you be more alive, or will you only be heavier with coins?" Coins buy school shoes, Musa said gently, looking at Lembo's calloused feet. Shoes are good, Lembo agreed, but you taught me to secure the boat with 2 ropes when the river is high. A man must tie himself twice if greed is pulling. I taught you. Musa laughed in surprise. You showed me with your hands, Lembo said. That is also teaching. In the morning, the man in the hat returned to test Musa's answer. Musa looked at the hat, which now seemed like a small dark roof, under which greed crouched, and said, No, my legs have learned to carry fish and cassava. They are not carrying your shadows. The man's eyes cooled. You will regret being poor. Perhaps, Musa said, but I won't regret sleeping. The man left, shoes biting dust. The refusal did not make Musa a saint. Saints are carved from wood and set in niches. But it made him something better than yesterday. It made him able to continue. Time slid forward, months gathered, soft as folded cloth. Musa repaired his shoulder by rowing, his heart by carrying, his name by being present. The market women began to call him Mzee, grandfather driver, a teasing honorific, because although he no longer drove, he navigated. He became good at listening to what people said while buying fish and what they did not say while counting change. One day, between the mango cellar and the charcoal mounds, a child's laughter cut through market noise in a way that made Musa's bones hum recognition. He turned. The girl with oranges, no longer under rain but under a woven hat, was bargaining fiercely with a boatman. Her oranges were now arranged in a pyramid, proud as a chieftain's hat. She saw Musa looking, frowning, as faces of danger sometimes become faces of safety when seen in a different season. Her face opened. You, she said, wonder quivering on the edge of accusation. Me, Musa agreed quietly. Are you well? I am, she said. Mother says God holds the heads of foolish men above water when children are riding with them. I was that foolish man, Musa said. There was no way to dress the truth handsomely. I am sorry. She studied him as one studies a scar that has stopped hurting. Are you still foolish? I am learning to be less, he said. Then help me tie this boat rope, she commanded, reverting to the generalship of market girls. The knot is stubborn. He tied it the way Babanguvu had taught him years ago with string and stories. When he finished, she nodded at the neatness. Mother says a knot is a promise you make to water. Mother is wise, Musa said. She is even when I wish she were not, the girl said cheerfully. Also, she leaned closer, the conspirator again. We heard a strange thing from the driver of the slow coach. He says the paper in your country says you died. It does, Musa said. The words did not stab him now. They only stung, like salt in a healing cut. Then be careful, she advised, with a grave authority children sometimes borrow from the future. People who believe you are dead may treat you as if you cannot be hurt. He thanked her, and the laugh they shared afterward felt like a rope properly tied. That evening, as Musa stacked trays of smoked fish to cool, Mama Saya's neighbour came running, breath chewing her words. There is a road meeting, she panted. The council wants to move the ferry to a new site because the current has changed. They ask for volunteers to clear the path and lay stones. If we wait for the government, we will grow old and the river will also grow old. Go, Mama Saya told Musa, as if he had already decided. Take Lembo. The river listens to men who listen back. At the meeting under the neem trees, Musa found a circle of men and women, a counsellor in a faded shirt, and a younger man with a notebook, who looked like he had wrestled with the alphabet and triumphed. Envy lurked there too, personified not in a face but in a feeling, a bristling when the notebook man spoke too confidently, a twitch when the counsellor praised another villager's idea. Envy harumphed like a goat at a gate. Why his idea, not yours? Why his name in the minutes? But Musa had learned to treat envy like a stray dog. Do not feed it, and it will wander off to beg elsewhere. We need stones, the councillor said, and a proper slope for the boats. The bank crumbles like cake. I will organise a stone chain, Musa volunteered, surprising himself with the ease of it. We will pass rocks from hand to hand to hand, the way news moves. A woman with strong arms grinned. Good. It will be the gossip chain. But for stones, they worked many afternoons, palms learning the language of granite. Musa found a calm in the rhythm. Lift, pass, receive. Lembo made a game for the children. Whoever passed without dropping a stone received a ribbon of palm fibre to tie around their wrist, a small ceremony that made sweat feel like a festival. Even the councillor carried rocks until his shirt clung like a skin. The new landing took shape, a slope that laughed at erosion, steps that mocked floods. The first boat nosed in, bumping with the affectionate clumsiness of a goat kid. The villagers cheered, the notebook man wrote something, and then, unexpectedly, placed the pen behind Musa's ear. For the foreman, he said. Not foreman, Musa objected. We all did this. Then for the man who said, We will pass stones like news, the notebook man replied. Words are also stones. They paved paths. It happened that on the day the landing opened, a government delegation arrived. The district commissioner, 2 men whose shoes sank awkwardly into mud, and a third driver whose face made Musa's heart stumble. It was Dondo, a rival from Kinyonga, a man who had always said, If the rules are a fence, find the hole. Dondo had once envied Sky Blessing openly, its passengers, its shine. There he is, Dondo said coldly, when his eyes snagged Musa, the ghost driver. The commissioner turned sharply. You know him. He is listed as deceased in Kinyonga's road records, Dondo said, satisfaction curdling his voice. But here he is, alive, in theft if not in body. He gestured at the landing. What is this man building? A private port? Is he smuggling? Envy's shadow, Dondo's, spread. Greed's old hand clapped Musa's shoulder, urging him to defend himself loudly, to snatch credit like a chicken snatches grain. But the river had taught Musa new reflexes. He stepped aside so the commissioner could see everyone behind him, women with mud on their calves, boys with palm ribbons, elders whose hands trembled from good work. The town built this, Musa said. I only carried what fit in my hands. If I am a ghost, then this is a ghost landing. He smiled slightly. But try stepping on it, sir. It will hold even the living. The villagers laughed. The commissioner's mouth softened. You are from Kinyonga? He asked. I was, Musa said. There was an accident. Records are stiff-necked things, and the dead often help the living most, Mamasaya added from the back, voice like a drum. Ask any widow who learned to count after burying her husband. The commissioner looked at the structure, then at the people, and made a decision that would turn like a hinge in many lives. This landing is good. We will send cement to fix the top steps. As for this man, he looked from Dondo to Musa. The river can make a mistake when it writes a man's name in water. The government can fix ink. If he wishes, we will correct the record across the border. But I think he already corrected the better record. What a record is that? Dondo challenged. The one written in mouths, the commissioner said, in the way people say a name when you're not there. Dondo's face tightened. The river laughed at him, or perhaps it was only the reeds chattering. Some men learn from mockery, others sit in it like a child in a puddle. Dondo was the second sort. Weeks later, he was caught pushing a truck across the ferry at night with packages that smelled like trouble. He tried to outrun his shadow, and the road remembered. That night, the police remembered too. It was not a grand punishment. It was the kind of punishment that looks like a mirror. Fines, licenses suspended, a wife's silence. Envy, bored now that it had bitten, slouched off to bother someone else. As for Musa, he travelled to Kinyonga once, legally, with letters from the commissioner and from Lusalama's council, his name stitched painfully but firmly back onto paper. He stood under the baobab, where Baba Nguvu still played the kora with that slow smile. The old man tilted his head as if listening to a song the river had hummed to him. "Driver," he greeted, and the word no longer made Musa's pride swell. It made his gratitude deepen. "I drove too fast, Baba," Musa said. "The river detained me. I learned to carry instead of merely deliver. The road loves a steady foot," Baba Nguvu said, plucking a bright ripple. "Did you find your shadow?" "I found communities that lend you one when you step wrong," Musa said, "and I found that the dead can be alive in the right place." "Alive where?" Baba Nguvu prompted, eyes crinkling like a map of laughs. "In the hands that pass stones," Musa said, "in the mouths that say your name without spitting, in the quiet of your own bed." The old man nodded, satisfaction the size of a full granary. "Then go back and keep listening to the river. It is teaching your feet to listen to the ground." Musa returned to Lusalama, not as a man running from a ledger, but as a man walking toward a village. He bought shoes for Lembo, sturdy ones that said, "Run, but tie your ropes." He gave the clinic nurse a handcart for supplies. He sent money to the family of the drowned man in the suit, through the commissioner, with an apology written as carefully as one cuts cloth. "I drove too quickly. I cannot return him. I will carry others carefully in his honour. Forgive me if you can." He rebuilt Sky Blessing in a way, not with metal, but with faces. When he finally returned to driving, it was not a border hustle, but the village school run and the market shuttle. He stopped at every muddy corner where a child waited with oranges and two big hopes. He was late sometimes. He did not mind. He waved at the ferry, and the ferry, now on its good landing, waved back by creaking cheerfully. News travels as quickly as envy, but roots as slowly as trees. It took months for the story to reach its proper shape. He died in a car accident in his country, but alive in Lusalama. Some told it as a joke the river played, others told it as an example God made. Some told it as a warning the road wrote in rain. The version Musa liked best was the simplest. A man ran, the river caught him, the village taught him to walk. One dry season morning, as dust rose in the light like old blessings shaken out, a young man came from Kinyonga carrying a letter. He stood awkwardly at Musa's stall, turning the envelope as if it were a fish with bones in it. "Can I help you?" Musa asked. "I am Abasi," the young man said. "My father wore suits." He travelled often. Abasi swallowed, trying not to cry in public. "He drowned the day your bus fell." Musa sat very slowly. "I am sorry," he said softly. "I know, those are small stones against your mountain." Abasi placed the envelope on the table. "My mother says we must finish things so that grief cannot keep moving the furniture of our hearts. She says I should come see you and listen for something I can carry home." He exhaled. "If you tell me to curse you, I will try. If you tell me to take your money, I will try. If you tell me to forgive you, I will try. But do not ask me to pretend it does not hurt." Musa nodded, the way one nods at truth. "Sit," he said. He poured tea that was too sweet on purpose. "Your father sat near the back. He steadied a child when we slid. He sang 'God help us,' and I think the river heard him for some of us. He is the reason the girl with oranges breathed again. I was that girl's driver, and her danger both. I will carry that contradiction until I also go to the water the last time." Abasi listened, the way the river listens to reeds. When Musa finished, the young man opened the envelope. Inside was the note Musa had sent months ago, with money for the family, creased, read many times. Abasi smoothed it. "My mother said your words were like small nails that held some boards together. She said money is salt, necessary, not sufficient. She sent me to see if you were different or only writing differently? Both, Musa admitted. I am different because I write differently and because I carry differently. I will drive the school route this afternoon. Ride with me. They rode. They stopped for a woman with a baby tied to her back, for a boy with one school shoe and one laugh, for a man dragging a sack of maize like a reluctant pet. Musa's hands on the wheel were not the hands that had clutched speed like a prize. They were hands that paused, waved others in, waited at the hump-backed goat crossing, because goats also believe roads belong to them. Abasi said little, but his shoulders eased by an inch. At the ferry the boatman called, "Mzide!" and Musa called back, "Captain Current!" The children shouted, "Ribbon Master," to Lembo, who theatrically awarded palm bracelets to those who helped push a cart off the boat. The steps held, the landing received, the river smiled in ripples. When they returned, Abasi stood by the bus and faced Musa in that square, quiet way men do when they will speak something their fathers would respect. "I will not forgive you today," he said, "but I will not refuse the idea that tomorrow I might. I will carry your apology home, and my mother will lay it beside her prayers and choose what to do." He paused. "I will not tear the nails out of our boards." "That is more than I deserve," Musa said, "and exactly what I need." Abasi nodded. "Be alive here then," he said. "If your country wrote you dead, make this one write you well." He left, walking lighter, and it occurred to Musa that sometimes the dead assist the living, not by haunting, but by being honoured with better behaviour. That night he dreamed of Baba Nguvu's kora playing underwater, and the sound was not frightening. It was like hearing your name called correctly from a distance. Years later, when new drivers asked him for advice, Musa would not begin with engines or tyres. He would begin with the ferry, the stone chain, the girl's warning, the letter folded like a bird that had flown and returned. "Tie yourself with 2 ropes," he would say. "One is the rule, one is the reason. If you only tie to the rule, you will find the hole in the fence. If you only tie to the reason, you will think yourself better than the fence. Tie to both, and you might sleep." If anyone laughed and called him sentimental, he would point at the landing, at the clinic cart, at Lembo's shoes worn out from running messages to the whole town. "Look there," he would say. "Tell me if sentiment alone builds steps." Sometimes he returned to Kinyonga to sit under the baobab. Baba Nguvu's hands had become thin as reeds, but his playing was strong. "You have unlearned your hurry," the old man would say. "I have learned a slower kind," Musa would answer. "The kind that arrives where it should." On the anniversary of the accident, he remembered the date precisely, because some lessons choose calendars the way some saints choose feast days. Musa would stand by the river and say the drowned man's name aloud. He would picture the man's son, Abasi, now tall in his own suit, perhaps forgiving, in increments like planting trees, one season at a time. He would say the names of the others too, including the unnamed ones, because it felt right to acknowledge what he could not fix. And each time, after the names and the quiet, he would turn away from the water, not to escape, but to return to the work that made his life alive in. The place that had chosen him when his country had discarded him. Alive in the fish he carried, the letters he helped read under mango shade, the way children shouted "Mzide" like a song. Alive in Lusalama, yes, but more accurately, alive in living rightly, which is the only country that does not need borders. Moral. A name written in ink can be crossed out, but a name written in deeds keeps speaking. When greed drives, the road remembers. When humility walks, the village makes room. Tie yourself with 2 ropes, rule and reason before you move. Today, choose one small act that stitches your name to kindness. Help carry, listen longer, fix a step. Let your life be alive in the mouths of those who tell it after you.